Welcome to our review of The 100 Lives of Lizzie Lovett by Chelsey Sedoti.
I went into this, it looked very friendly.
It
looks very friendly and light, and then I started reading and I'm like, this is not friendly and light.
It's not as dark as it might have been.
Yes, that's the thing. Like, without its sense of humor and the writing style, this would have been really, really hard to get through because it's dealing with a lot of dark things. But the darkness is still there, and it's still just like slowly like eating away at you because I felt really, really bad for Hawthorne, and part of Hawthorne's problem is Hawthorne herself. She just continually digs herself into her isolated world. But at the same time, I totally get her and her like wishing that there was a quest. Like how she's like, I just want to be an adventurer, damn it. Like I don't want to like go to college and do like the normal adult thing. I want magic, and I totally and completely understand that, and coming to terms with that is always very, very difficult.
So in this book, it's kind of like a very simple premise. What happens is there is this girl, Hawthorne. She's been going through high school. She's very isolated. She only really talks to her best friend. She fights with her brother all the time. You know, she had a couple of friends, but you know, it didn't work out and they kind of like just pushed her away. So she's kind of bullied at school and made fun of, and she wants out, but she doesn't want things to change at the same time. She's afraid of like what's on the other side. There's this girl who graduated a few years ahead of Hawthorne, who was in her brother Rush's year, but Hawthorne had an encounter with Lizzie and she kind of started to idolize her, but then when she didn't get the connection that she was looking for, she started to hate her as well. And so she kind of forgotten about her until one day it's on the news that Lizzie Lovett disappeared.
And so Lizzie Lovett was the it girl. She was the perfect girl. Everyone wanted to be her, or they wanted to be with her. Just, she could do anything. Like, the town was obsessed with her. So when Lizzie Lovett goes missing, it's like it's a travesty.
Yeah, like, who did it? We need to find this person. We need to, like, see what, like, we need to bring this person to justice because they disappeared this sweet, wonderful, amazing
Perfect
girl.
And interestingly enough, right away the boyfriend is cleared, which surprised me because normally it's the significant other of the missing person who is like right under scrutiny. And it's kind of implied later when she's talking to Enzo that he's like, yeah, they totally said I was out of that I was clear, but
I don't know.
Am I really?
The whole town is basically like, no, he did it.
And so Hawthorne, she wants to find out what happened to Lizzie Lovett because this kind of thing does not happen to girls like Lizzie Lovett. She kind of sinks herself into Lizzie's life. She gets a job working at the diner Lizzie worked at. She starts hanging out with Lizzie's boyfriend. She goes into the woods. She walks around looking for her. She talks to people who knew her. And just the more she does, the less it makes sense.
To her, at least.
Yeah.
Because, she, like, no matter kind of what people tell her, because, I mean, like, her boyfriend Enzo's like, no, she was perfect. She was, like, the manic pixie dream girl. She was laid back and, you know, she was wonderful and she had this connection with wolves and blah, 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 blah. But then other people are like, no, she fucking hated her job. She's kind of bitchy. If, like, you know, she seemed kind of perfect, but once you got to know her, she was actually kind of boring because she was just so stereotypical. A lot of people kind of had like a realistic view of her, but Hawthorne almost kind of like refuses to believe
She wants to live in that magical, realistic world, and so she decides that the only thing that makes sense, because this kind of stuff doesn't happen to people like Lizzie Lovett, is that Lizzie Lovett became a werewolf.
And everybody's like,
what drugs are you on?
But I mean, like, she tells Enzo this theory, and because he kind of like needs something to believe in and to focus on, he kind of like goes along with it. They hang out more and more and more. They kind of develop a crush on each other at some point. Eventually they sleep together. But you know, you start to realize too that Enzo is kind of a loser. He kind of has his own problems to deal with, especially now that his girlfriend has just up and fucking disappeared.
I love the werewolf thing.
Yeah.
The werewolf thing. The first thing that, like, I thought it was so clever because werewolves are, like, a liminal creature where you're human and you're animal and you're, like, walking the line. So it was, like, the perfect example of Lizzie's character, how she's, like, constantly in turmoil. And it works for Hawthorne as well. She's trying to figure out who she is, and the two sides of her personality are constantly, like, fighting themselves.
And I mean, like, she's part of the problem. Like, she isolates herself. Like, she's, like, I kind of create drama, and sometimes I don't know why I do it. I just do.
She's isolating herself to call attention to herself, and it's not working, and so that makes her feel like she deserves less attention, so this ugly cycle kind of keeps going.
You know, eventually kind of her best friend has had enough of it, and kind of like her self-centered nature, and she's kind of like, I need some distance from you. And that kind of sends her like further
Spiraling
into a tailspin. I also like how at the beginning of the book she has this very like antagonistic relationship with her brother. She kind of doesn't see how it kind of works both ways, that he antagonizes her, but she also antagonizes him a lot of the time. But as the book goes on and she's clearly kind of like spiraling into something, he kind of like points that out and then tries to help her. And by the end of the book, he's like a really good support system that she didn't have before. I thought that was a really interesting progression of a relationship.
Okay, my other favorite part of this book are the hippies, because it just comes completely out of left field. Like you get the fact that Hawthorne's mother was a hippie. Like that's super duper obvious from like the get-go. But one day, a caravan of hippies just migrates down the street, and Hawthorne and her brother and her father are just like, oh god, oh no,
They're
coming here. And it's like the hippies are playing music to just draw attention that they're coming, and it's the old group that the mother used to hang out with, and the leader of the commune kind of comes out, who's like, yeah, you know, I got a vision to say that I need to come here and find you.
They're all just like, oh god, please go away.
Like Hawthorne looks at her dad, it's like just kind of like, Dad, you have the power to stop this, Dad, what are you doing, Dad, no. And so the hippies kind of hang out for 3 months, and so Hawthorne like resents them at the beginning, but by the end she kind of goes and like starts hanging out with them and talking to Sundog, who kind of mentors her a little bit.
Some of them sprout a whole bunch of absolute bullshit nonsense, but they're also the people that kind of take her the most seriously.
And he says to her, he's like, look, you have all of this in your head, and it's just rolling around in your head, and it's just becoming poison. Just get it out somehow, like paint or write or do something. Just channel your energy into something else so it doesn't drive you crazy. And so that leads to Hawthorne writing in her diary, like starting a diary about her first kiss with Enzo, which was crazy and amazing and just like passionate and ridiculous. And she accidentally leaves the diary in one of her classes, and mean girl Michelle finds it and photocopies it and puts it up on her blog.
And yeah, you know, that bully relationship too, was interesting, because at one point Hawthorne's just like, fuck it, you want to fight? I will give you a fight. And you know, she kind of takes the fight to Michelle and is like, gets down to her level.
And then, but the thing is, even after she did that, Michelle still one-ups her. And so it ends up Hawthorne eventually like just makes an offhand really shitty comment to her, and somebody else says, oh yeah, no, she was crying in the bathroom, and Hawthorne's like, I feel like I should be happy about this, that I won, but at the same time, I just feel so shitty. Like, what did I actually win? I made somebody else more miserable than me. What is that in the grand scheme of things? So you get to see, like, maturity level.
That she's slowly developing. She also has this really cute habit of, I guess, mildly unpleasant curses, which is so much fun. Like, when the hippies roll up, she's like, I wish all their weed would turn into oregano.
Every time she does this, it's like 3 or 4 in a row. And they're just progressively worse. Almost my personal favorite is, I wish that every shower they take are cold showers, because that's just awful.
I swear to God, there was one in there like, I wish they would hit every red light. Just little things like that would like totally mess up your day, but is not actually super awful. And I kind of like that too, because she said she started it because at one point when she was a kid, she told her mother, I wish you would die. And her mother's like, listen, be careful what you wish for. And she's like, okay, all right, I guess I can dial it back a bit. I thought that was super adorable.
Hawthorne and Enzo's relationship still made me uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
You could see just how poisonous it was.
Yeah, because, you know, as the book goes on, she's slowly trying to take herself out of isolation. So at one point she just kind of like, it's like, fuck it, I want to go to the homecoming dance. Take me to the homecoming dance, and he just stands her up. Like, every relationship in this book has like a really good logical and like meaningful progression.
And the entire time I was totally rooting for her to end up with Connor.
I totally
I wanted
too.
that so bad.
And it kind of happened.
It kind of happens. It's kind of implied at the end that now that like Enzo's out of her life and she's starting to like dealing with things more as they come.
Why did the relationship with Connor not creep you out? Because they were the same age?
No, Connor is
Her brother's age, which is Lizzie's age.
And Enzo is 5 years older than Lizzie. Because they were all 21 and Enzo was 25.
Oh, okay.
So he's only got 3 years on her, which is, yeah.
I see.
Connor was nice. He was a functioning human being because he was going to school for engineering, and it wasn't just like, I make art because I'm tortured. It was just, I'm good friends with your brother, I've been around you since you were little, and like, you were clearly in a bad place, and when Rush is unable to reach out to her, he tries as well. It's like a genuine affection. It's not predatory. Like, Enzo's relationship is predatory. It's just like, he likes the way she sees the world, kind of wants to see the world like she does, where Connor's like, you're not doing well.
Hey.
Let me help you.
Yeah. Like, he drives her home when she's really drunk one time, and you know, just like talks to her when she needs somebody to talk to. At
one point when she's sitting out on the porch waiting for Enzo to show up to take her to homecoming, and Enzo doesn't show up, he's like, no, let's go somewhere. Like, takes her out for pizza, and then they sit, and she thinks, oh my god, he's gonna try and make me talk about this and have some like heartbreaking conversation. He's just like, the stars are really pretty, you know? Like, it's very like, I'm not gonna push you if you want to talk about it.
I'm here, but...
Being like a positive relationship when does not have that.
Yeah. So the book ends when they do find Lizzie Lovett's body, and it turns out that she actually committed suicide. She walked into the woods and hung herself. And so this kind of just breaks down Hawthorne's worldview. Like, all that magic that she had kind of created in a situation that was mildly okay, where she was a werewolf, just kind of like shatters, and she has to deal with the reality that Lizzie wasn't perfect, that, like, you know, depression is a real thing, and that sometimes the world's not magical, it's just horrible.
And so everybody thinks she's suicidal. Her brother walks in on her, and she has a scarf around her neck, and she's pulling on it. She's like, I wanted to know what it feels like, and he's just like, that is not okay.
You're taking this too far.
Yeah. And so that's a breaking point, and that's the point when their relationship gets mended. Mm-hmm. And she realizes just how much he cares about her, and then he goes out of his way. It's just like, hey, do you want to go to the movies? Hey, do you want to hang out? Hey, we're going sledding. Hey, come play Monopoly. Like, he won't leave her alone, and it's very endearing.
Yeah, it really is. And then it gets to the point where, you know, she has a whole bunch of pictures of Lizzie, and so as like a way of like letting go, she decides to walk into the woods and, you know, leave the photos by the tree where she died, and, you know, she looks behind her and her brother's like followed her into the woods. He's like, I was worried. All in all, it was a really good book. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed it. It was not a chore. It was fun. It was heartfelt.
As someone who doesn't really read a lot of contemporary, I liked this.
Mm-hmm. Let us know what you guys think. It's kind of like John Green, Looking for Alaska-ish. So we will see you guys later. Bye!